Hello guys, Tindeq and Block 2025 to build strength, finger endurance in climbing. You go on the 30-meter route and you get tired. Well guys, this is the moment when you're going to learn how to do the best endurance strength work to not only have powerful fingers, but also be able to climb routes of 20, 30, or 40 meters. So stay in the video because I'm going to teach you everything you really need to build strength and endurance in your fingers for climbing. A hug. Before starting any strength or endurance work, I would advise you, and I know there's a lot to discuss about this, but I would advise you to first do maximum strength cycles. Why? Because maximum strength, as the name suggests, improves your maximum strength. And from that point of view, the occlusion threshold, which is very trendy lately, shifts. The percentage doesn't change. But the relative strength you exert to reach the occlusion threshold does change. I will explain it in a certain way. If one has 50 kilos of maximum strength, the occlusion threshold will be between 55 and 65% more or less. That is to say, if I have 50 kilos of maximum strength, even though my occlusion threshold is between 55 and 65%, the force that I will be applying for that occlusion threshold will be approximately between 25 to 32 kilos, more or less. In other words, 25 to 35 kilos is the force I will apply for my capillaries to start closing. A short announcement. Finger strength and Tindeq course lasts 5 hours. Finger strength planning course lasts 7 hours. The videos are already recorded, so if you want them, you can buy and watch them immediately. And if you also want to train with me, just write to me on Instagram, whether it's for the Tindeq finger strength courses, finger strength planning, or if you want to train with me. But let's suppose I increase my maximum strength to 70, the same individual. The occlusion threshold will still be 55 to 65%. But the force I apply for my capillaries to start closing will be much more. It will now be 35 to 40 kilos. That is to say, when I do this route, in all these steps where I used to apply, I don't know, 70, 80% of my maximum strength, now I'm only applying 60 or 50% of my maximum strength. What does that mean? That my capillaries remain open, even though I'm holding the same grip. But of course, since I have more strength, okay, it means that I don't need to apply as much force from my forearm to that grip. And it means that my capillaries won't necessarily close for that same hold. So therefore, and you can debate this with me personally, with the people I am training, I first make or try to get them to reach their maximum strength, so that from that moment, we can start doing strength endurance work that corresponds to being able to apply much more force to what they are doing. But let's go. The first thing we need to know is our maximum strength. So here I have my Tindeq already set up. I see that it's working. Let's see. It's working. So I'm going to go back again and go to my peak load. And in this case, I have the climb all. So the climb all, I already measured it, and it was 28, 31 kilos. That is 28 left hand, 31 left hand. I already mentioned in another video, guys, there's a lot of information about finger strength. So if you haven't seen it, watch it, because there you'll be able to learn how to achieve maximum strength and also how to do maximum strength work regarding the loads. But let's assume that this guy had 28 kilos, 31 kilos. So I go to my weakest link, which would be 28. So I'm going to apply a bit of physiology here. I'm going to take this out, and we're going to leave it at 0, and we know that this guy has 28 kilos of maximum strength. I already told you that the occlusion threshold was between 55 and 65. I want to apply endurance strength meaning I need to apply force, but I will try to have my capillaries just barely about to close. In that case, and this is theoretical and can be debated, obviously, I will take 28, which was my maximum strength, and multiply it by 155, which is 55%, and it gives me 15, okay? It gives me 15. So that is the load. I will work with 4 endurance strength. So here I go again to my Tindeq application. I go back, I go to repeaters. Here I have quite a few, many ways to work, but we are going to start a new session. So here what I am going to do is that I'm going to set up 2 sets. Why 2 sets? Because it will be 1 set for the right hand and 1 set for the left hand. Okay? Then repetitions. I am going to do 10 repetitions, all right? 10 repetitions. Then each of those repetitions, I will work for 10 seconds. 10 seconds, 10 times. How long will I rest? Between each set, 4 seconds. And I press OK. Discussion. The studies that have been conducted to understand how the strength of resistance is 7 and 3. But you need to have judgment, guys, judgment. Because a thing is scientific work, and another is how it is applied in training. A scientific work aims to demonstrate something, but that doesn't mean that the training will be exactly like that. Thus, for example, in heart failure, when the study was done, I don't know. The consensus that talked about enalapril, the doses of enalapril given to patients were between 20 and 40 milligrams. And after a year of taking it, it was shown that these individuals who were taking 20 to 40 milligrams of enalapril improved, had less heart failure, and had greater survival. But in real life, patients are given a maximum of 20 milligrams. 40 is not given because 40 has issues. I am using 10-4. Why is that? Because I control more, better, because controlling 7, doing 7 means that there is probably a second to reach the load, a second to lower the load, 3 seconds to rest, and I don't even have time to take the magnesium, and it turns into chaos. I am using 10-4. Why? Because I control those 10 seconds much more. Because actually, it's not 10 seconds, maybe it's 8, because between reaching the load and releasing the load, 10 seconds didn't pass. Maybe 8 or 9 more or less passed. And the 4 seconds are enough for me to take magnesium or move my hand and prepare to throw again. And that's why I'm using 10-4. Then pause. I'm going to set 15 seconds. Why pause between sets? Because 1 set in right hand and another set in left hand. That is to say, I'm going to throw 10 times with the right hand. I'm going to rest 15 seconds and then throw 10 times with the left hand. Countdown, I'm going to set it to about 5 seconds to prepare myself. Sound. Off, I'm going to set it to yes. I want it to sound. And we have to look at the load. I am going to apply a load of a single unique load, not right, left. Why? Because if you saw in the previous video, guys, watch it because I've been talking a lot about force or measuring load and so on, etc. The load I'm going to measure is on my weakest link. We already saw that this guy had done 28, 31. But the load I'm going to apply will be from the weakest link, in this case, the left hand, in this case, 28. And as I said in other videos, what I want is for my weaker hand to work at its maximum and my stronger hand to work as well, but not at its maximum. And what does that mean? That as they keep working, this one will rise faster, this one will rise more slowly, and they will tend to equalize, tend to. And that's what I want. That's why I work with the weakest link, as long as there is no imbalance. And you can also see that in another video. So I set a lock target. Here we set it to 100. I also explained in another video that 100 is not the maximum load, but rather it's 100 kilos. And being 100 kilos, the percentages are converted back into kilos. We already measured with the calculator that 55% close to the exclusion threshold was at 15 kilos. So I set this to 0, and I'm going to set this to 15 as the maximum average. And we're going to raise this to on, no. This time it goes to 11. And my load will be between like 11 kilos and 15 kilos. Then I'm ready. Do I have anything else left? I have nothing left. Remember that. I'm not going to use the right left. Why? Because I'm working with my weakest link, and also because the right and left hands are balanced. So when I'm ready, obviously before this, I warmed up, recruited, and everything else. I'm ready for the session. So let's do a session to see how it goes. Let's start the session. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to do it. This is going to be terrible, but well, it's all for you. And I start. So I have to stay 10 seconds at the corresponding load. Rest 4 seconds. I throw again. Rest 4 seconds. What you need to know, and I tell all my students this, is that the first 5 throws are not terrible at all. 1 feels like nothing is happening. It's around the 5th or 6th where it starts, where these unpleasant sensations begin to appear. And what do I mean by unpleasant sensations? Feeling that your forearm is very, very swollen, that it hurts, that you can't maintain the load and everything. You always have to keep the load well maintained for the corresponding seconds. And another thing, you have to reach the zone as quickly as possible. Speed also influences. Next time I'm going to do it wrong. So you can see how not to do it. When I'm tired, the speed also decreases. So if I do this, I just reach the load at the C, at the 3 seconds. That can't happen. You have to apply speed. That's also an indirect way to know that the person is getting fatigued. Another thing that can't happen is that I reach the load and you have to hold it. And then you start losing it. But you try to reach it and lose it. That doesn't work either. In that case, you would need to lower the load. I throw again. Okay, I'm already on the 9th. If the load was done right, oh man, I should be here, exhausted. And finally, the last load comes. I prepare and go for it. And there I have 15 seconds to rest. Probably if the load was appropriate, my forearm would be in pieces. But I managed. I managed to withstand the load. I'm going to go with the left and we'll do it quickly so you can see it. Yeah, and here I am finishing my last one. And it's over. Done. My work is finished. I did 10 with my right hand and 10 with my left hand. So here, what I'm going to do is save it. I save it. I'm going to put climb all, of course, and I'm going to put resist. And I click accept and I click save. So here I can see what I did. So here I can see my right hand and I can review how each of my throws went. I can also notice here at the here on the eighth one, that it didn't go very well, right? Or go to the left hand and see how all my throws went. And they were all very perfect, meaning I handled the load perfectly. And I can analyze them according to the curves. Remember that I talk a lot about curves, not about kilos, guys. We don't talk about kilos, we talk about curves. I can go through all the curves and see that this guy, for example, had a problem on the 8th one. and ask him what happened on the 8th. Then he would tell me, no, it's just that my hand slipped, you know? I can also go to the next one and see all the curves, and all the curves are perfect. Then I can say to him, hey, did it go well for you? Yes, just look at my curve and it went super well for me. And that's regarding the strength endurance work. You have to be very careful because strength endurance work is overrated. Why? Because in climbing, you fall due to strength, not endurance. So you have to be very careful because when you do strength endurance work, strength decreases just like that. Maximum strength tends to decrease when you do maximum strength work, especially in people who are well trained. In people who are just starting to train, there are possibilities that maximum strength continues to increase. But if maximum strength continues to increase, it means that the cycles used for maximum strength work were not well applied, so you have to be careful with that. Don't put too much faith in strength endurance work, because in climbing, you fall due to strength. People see not endurance, even though it might not seem that way, it is. The vast majority of the time, you fall because the 2B fibers, which are the strength fibers, are fatigued. But the fibers which are for endurance, that is mainly the slow ones and some 2A, those remain active until the end. Another thing, when you do these strength endurance exercises, you have to apply them based on your maximum strength work. But when you are going to do this type of work, you need to know that all 10 sets must be done correctly. If you feel that by the 8th or 9th set, you can no longer handle the load, it means you need to reduce the load because it is overestimated. That is, if we calculated here that it was 11:15 and this guy can no longer continue by the 8th set, we should lower it. We should lower it maybe to 9:13 or 9:12. The other side of the coin is that if I am lifting and by the 9th or 10th set, I am doing very well, as if nothing has happened, I should increase the load. That is, if this guy is on the 9th or 10th set and says, you know what, I can do an 11, a 12, I'm not so exhausted. In that case, I have to increase the load. For example, in this same case, if the load was 11:15, we should increase it to 12:16 or 13:17. But you have to be very careful because increasing by just 1 or 2 kilos makes a huge difference. So you have to be careful not to overdo it on the scale. This is a strength endurance workout that is very universal, so to speak, but you need to have the judgment to know when to use it and why, and be aware of all the caveats. One of the main caveats is that it reduces maximum strength. So when you do a lot of strength endurance workouts, your maximum strength decreases significantly. And you can feel that later on the rock. If someone were given a route with 40 steps where all the holds are good, then this would be useful. But in real life, you fall at the cruxes. I mean, suddenly there are 30 steps that are all the same. And then a crux comes with only 5 or 6 hard steps. And the person falls and says, why? I'm lacking endurance. No, it's because you don't have strength. So with judgment, that's what I just said.